Sober on Purpose is the podcast that takes you beyond clean to fulfilling your dreams. Other programs get you sober. We ask what's next. Come thrive with us.
Hello, Sober on Purpose family. Thank you for joining us today. I have a guest that we have known each other for 10 years. We've been on and off the net, all those things. And it has been a joyful reunion when I found her again and went, oh, she's doing some really great things. Africa Archield is an intuitive business consultant and so much more. It's amazing, all the things that she does. And she's been doing this for at least that long, about 10 years or so, Africa.
Consulting since 2006. So
yeah,
a long time. Yeah.
So a long time. And she does this through Zoom, through all those formats. So not location based. You can find her on Instagram. You can find her on YouTube. You can really get to know her. But I was super excited to see where she's going, especially for the Sober on Purpose community, because she is talking about overwhelm. And I know that we have a lot of people who feel that. I know that we have a lot of people who are either coming off of addiction, living with an addict, or worried about a loved one, and overwhelm is huge to them. So Africa, share a little bit more about what you're doing right now and what that looks like.
Well, mainly I work with multi-six-figure entrepreneurs, mainly women. And what happens is they look like they have it all together on the outside, but behind closed doors, internally, things are just in chaos. And one of the things they say is, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed. There's just so much going on. So that's who I work with. That's how I work with them. And I'm so excited because you're right. Those same issues that group of women have are issues that we all have in varying degrees. Like this is just part of life. It compounds in a different way when you're running a business and have all these other things going on in your life. I don't know how many people in your community are also running a business, but the underpinnings of everything is the same. And so a lot of what I share with them will also work for your folks as well. I mean, this is how to get overwhelmed by your life, how to kind of take back some control in your life. And I use the word control very loosely because I don't want anyone to think there's a control that we have in our lives to direct what we want. And there's also being in flow with the grand design. Absolutely. And so there's some give and take there. But this is so that you can stay focused on your path and not be yanked off in other people's paths. So think about it and control that way.
Absolutely. And a lot of folks in our community do own businesses. Mm-hmm. What we found through doing these interviews is the same drive that drives an addict also drives an entrepreneur. They will work till the end. They see the goal. They're going to get it. They're going to make it happen. So they are really fantastic entrepreneurs as well. And then when you're talking to the loved ones around them, they often get sucked into this passion, whether it be part of the business or the addiction or whatever it is, they get sucked into that. And so suddenly they turn around and they're like, where's my life? I don't have a life anymore. So when I was going through your overwhelmed stuff, you were talking about agenda, and it really set me back a little bit. I'm like, I'm not doing my own agenda. Talk to us about what that really looks like.
Well, one of the things I like people to do just initially is just to notice. You know, like one of the things I noticed that I was doing, the way I let people set my agenda was just literally in the morning, I would go and next to my bed is my phone. And I would pick up this phone and like start, what emails do I have? What's going on Instagram? What's going on Twitter? What's the latest like tragedy spawning somewhere? And all that interaction through all those different social media, through your email, they're all setting an agenda for you. They're telling you what to do before you've even had a chance to take a beat, to get yourself focused and decide your own agenda for the day. So the first thing I tell people to do is just to notice. Notice where you let other people come in to set the agenda. The other place I recognize it happening, especially as I talk to more clients, was family, right? We even talked about this earlier, that mom, oh my God, I can't find my whatever it is, the baseball bat, the mitt, the cleats.
Football cleats. I had to stop and go over to the school where he had already been and look for his football cleats in the middle of the time that I needed to be checking in with clients. I'm like, what do you do? I mean, some of that is part of life.
It is.
How do you set your agenda so you get your top priorities?
So the one thing I really love to have clients do is start the night before. I mean, it sounds a little cliche, and I recognize that, but starting the night before. I mean, there's a process to what I call releasing the day. Right? You have to release the day. I have meditations about it, but just kind of in short, to get yourself in the state. And I like to start with the quote unquote negative bad stuff. I don't think things are necessarily negative or bad. They're just things that we prefer not to have happen. Right? Could be negative to us, and later we find out it's a positive thing, but things we prefer not to have had happen. And I like to get all that stuff out because I don't want to carry it in with me, because it starts setting its own agenda with me, right? The longer we carry grudges and stuff like that. So I like to get all that out, however you do it, right?
Can you give us an example? Because that's really interesting. Can you give us an example of how it sets its own agenda?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm trying not to help someone here. I had a client, had a bad interaction with someone in their business, right? It was a customer, and they had a bad interaction. And it had been, when I started working with this client, maybe about 6 to 8 years prior to that. And it still started coloring everything in their lives. That one interaction was still coloring things in their lives, still setting up how they engaged with other people, and still actually affecting the life with their family because they just relive it over and over again. And there's a point where you just have to let that go. I mean, it can be bad. Someone could have sued you. Someone could have said something very ugly to you, like whatever it is. At some point, you have to release it because it just becomes, lack of a better word, a cancer inside of you. And it starts directing how you see the world, how you act with other people, everything. And it's not you anymore. So that's what I'm talking about. It can just really build up over time and take on a life of its own. And then it's directing you with the agenda. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And after looking at your channel, I imagine there's a meditation for that. So those that are listening, she has a ton of meditation. So if you're feeling, I'm a regular meditator, and if you're feeling totally out of sorts, hop on Africa's channel, same name, on her YouTube, Instagram, any place, and you can pick up a meditation and change your day. Because isn't that like getting back under the covers, going to sleep for a minute, and then pulling them back off again?
Yes, it's like the reset. I love the reset. Sometimes I'm like, meditate, go hop in the bed for 15 minutes. Meditate, go hop in the bed for 15 minutes. Let me reboot. I mean, and sometimes I'm getting a little bit off the thing, but sometimes you just literally don't have that 15 minutes or, whatever. And I have a really brief one to shift you right away that takes less than a minute. And I think it's important to have that in your back pocket. It's just really focused breathing, like you're focusing on your breath. And what that's doing is bringing you into the present moment. And once you're in the present moment, guess what? You're out of the past living in some crazy loop. You're not future tripping. So it just becomes easier to be here now. And all of a sudden you find that your outlook has changed, your whole energy has changed. And I think that's really important. So at the very least, take some time to focus on your breath. And when I say focus, I actually count. I count in for 4, hold for 4, release for 4. And if you're like feeling super tense, count in for 4, hold for 4, release for 8, if you can. So make that exhalation longer, and that brings down your anxiety.
It's wonderful. I'm doing it now.
Right. So it's like a little hack. It just changes your whole world like that.
And there's not much we can do about the past. The future's yet to come. All we have is right now.
Yeah, the present.
That's it. And confidence and resilience are things that you talk about. You talk about with setting the agenda, but doesn't that dovetail into the confidence and resilience for your day?
Somewhat. When you set the agenda, so you release all the mucky stuff, right? The next thing I like to go into is gratitude.
Oh,
everything that you're grateful for. Like, it's like I've released all the stuff that's weighing me down.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just going to lift myself up. I'm going to lift energy up. I'm going to make sure that I've written, said out loud, whatever it is for you, like I said, that I'm appreciating all the wonderful things that have happened. Mm-hmm. Because our brains are hardwired to look at bad things or what we perceive as bad things and not at those good things. So I really put a lot of emphasis on making sure you look at those things, write them down. That's why people always say, keep a gratitude journal. It's starting to rewire your brain to see good things and appreciate good things that have happened. Because guess what? You notice more of them the next day, and it keeps your attitude, your spirit higher. Right? It's that's the hack. So then moving on, and this is where I think we get more confident. Well, I should say this. The gratitude helps you become more resilient. You can bounce back faster because you realize there's a lot of good things going on. It's not all bad, right? There's a lot of good things going on. So then for me, it's like really going in and constructing your day. That's why I say you start the day before. So you think about it. I call it creating tomorrow, writing it out, speaking out, like whatever we have to do. And there's hardwired things for us, right? Like if I look at my Google Calendar and I look at Monday, I promise you I have a few meetings.
Yes.
And even more on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because that's where I do client delivery, right? So there's certain things I know are going to happen. And there's maybe some other things I want to have happen. And I just sit and I write out what that next day is going to look like. And even down to, this is how I'm going to feel when I get up in the morning. This is what I'm planning to eat for lunch. This is how I'm going to feel as soon as I see my kids in the afternoon. Like all of that stuff that you write out down to the moment you go to bed. What I have found and what my clients have found is, as they've done it consistently, their day is about 80 to 90% of what they wrote down. And I'm not talking about the set meetings.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Not counting the set meetings. You're bringing your attention to what you want. And it's almost as if it sets up a boundary around your time. Right. And like I said, it's not perfect. It's never exact. But it's almost as if this is what I'm expecting to have happen. And lo and behold, pretty much that's what happens. When something seriously goes out of whack in my day, I'm like, what was that? It's a surprise.
Let me ask you about the mechanics of that. Are you long forming it in a journal? Because the one thing that I'm hearing that's really different is write down how you want to feel, how you're going to feel, rather than getting hijacked.
Yeah, because it's easy to get hijacked. I mean, everything's set up to hijack you because someone's got to be in control. And if you're not in control of what's going on in your day, control, like I said, that the definition I gave you before, then someone else is going to come in and assume that control. You're never, I always hear these stories of like, you're rudderless in a storm. No, you're never rudderless. There's always something or someone directing you, but it might as well be you.
That's awesome. So in a lot of the loved one community, we're often giving our power away to somebody else to help them in their crisis or whatever's going on. But if I wrote it out the night before, I could say, going to stop for lunch for an hour and have, a nice salad and a cup of tea and be restful, which means I'm not going to give that hour away to searching for cleats over at the school to make sure that he has them for the game then. I mean, he's 15. If he was, a lot younger, I would probably do something, but I'm dealing with an adult here, basically.
Yeah, basically an adult. And that's, when we don't allow them to grab our power and our time like that, they're also learning responsibility. And that's really what we want to teach our kids, is to be responsible. So when they leave our house, we don't get
You're laughing because I've got a 17-year-old and my husband and I are going, after he graduates, do you think he's leaving? Do you think he's staying?
That's when I have the same conversation.
We've tried the responsible adult, teach him to be a responsible adult, and it's the it's the test. He'll just have to get out and test it. But I absolutely hear what you're saying. I had never thought about writing down how I want to feel.
Yeah,
that could change everything.
I mean, it's planting a seed in your mind. Your mind wants to do something, right? So I guess this is really the core of it. And I'm thinking of it in this moment. So thank you for saying that. Your mind wants to do something. Always, always, always. Your brain wants something to chew on. Right. You're literally giving it something to chew on and direct you through the day by writing it down the day before. So if you write down how you want to feel, your brain's going to pick up on the things that will help you feel that way and direct your attention toward it.
Absolutely. So I write down the wins of the day and the wins I expect the next day, but I don't write down how I feel about it, because sometimes even when the wins happen, I'm not like, yay, kind of like, oh yeah, well, whatever.
Oh my gosh. I literally this week, I was on the phone with a client and I'm like, I think it was in the matter of a few days, she had signed up 5 new clients. 5.
Awesome.
And then not insignificant amounts of money. 5, right?
Right.
And we're like, oh my goodness, what did you do? What did you do to celebrate? Are you kidding me? You must celebrate every single one. This is a new person that you get to help enrich their lives and direct them. And they're trusting you to do that. They're investing in themselves through you. That needs to be celebrated. They decide to go on this path with you. And it's like, think about what a huge test of faith for them to decide to plunk down 5 figures to work with you. Come on. And it was just all of a sudden, I'm like, so what are you going to do to celebrate? What are you going to do to honor them and honor yourself? And we finally came up with something that could be repeatable or, slightly shifted each time. That wasn't crazy. But it was still like, hey, this is something that must happen. I mean, even filling a summit or something like that, it's someone paid $5 for 10 or 100, whatever it is for summits. They all vary from free to whatever. But there's always some kind of number that you want in there.
Yeah.
At least take the time to, grab a glass of water and toast them as you put them up on the board like, yay, I'm so glad you're going to be here. And it's not like they see you. But I always say, when you're on the phone, like, do kids do this anymore on the phone?
No, they do this. You know what they do? They talk like this. They talk.
What? I know, but it's like, do they even know what this means?
No, they don't.
When I was younger, I was taught, like, when you get on the phone, you always smile because people can hear your smile. They feel your smile. It's almost like when someone enters your program or enters your world, your email list or whatever, by toasting them, I feel like they feel your energy. They feel that they're welcomed, even though they may never speak to you.
Right.
They have a feeling of welcome.
Absolutely. And you're celebrating yourself too. We've got people who make all kinds of money and people who have they're just aimless in the sense of, yeah, I'm making all this money, but what does that really mean? Is there any purpose behind it? And that's where it becomes so sad. That's why we're sober on purpose. We're not about getting you sober. We're about, okay, you've numbed out for this many years of your life. What now is your purpose? How are you going to take, and you talk about this in Overwhelmed too. You're perfectly designed to offer a gift. What is that gift that you're offering?
And
if
that.
you don't celebrate that, how will you know when you get there?
Yeah. I'm assuming you find this in your work a lot, especially if you're working with addiction. There's this, for me, I find this underlying feeling of unworthiness and not enoughness about themselves or even what they're doing. There'll never be enough. It's like, okay, well, you made X. Nope, that's not enough. Well, what is enough? And I'm not trying to put a cap on, but I'm like, if you never celebrate along the way, it will never, ever be enough. You're not even recognizing that you've hit the next thing. It's like a check off rather than a milestone, a celebration. And your body, your soul gets tired of that go, 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 go. And to me, it's like there's all sorts of things that burn people out, right? But to me, that's one of the things I always see along with burnout is that there was never a celebration of the wins along the way, big or little. It was always just like, yeah, whatever, keep going.
It almost seems like there should be a checklist of, I keep doing, but this is not really it. It's really about unworthiness. How do you help people recognize that they could accomplish everything? They could be Elon Musk and accomplish everything there is to accomplish and still feel unworthy and worthless and miserable. How do you help them recognize that that's really the issue?
Overtime during the coaching. Because no one wants to stay immediately. Like I could run a program and say, finally worthy, and no one will sign up because no one thinks that they feel unworthy. I mean, if they've done a lot of work on themselves, they probably recognize it. But it's usually like over time, as you're working with someone, they're like, you can kind of slowly, when they're ready. I always think about coaching. It's like, when you're working with someone, they have to be able to accept the next thing. It can push their boundary, but it can't be out of the realm of possibility. And for some people, when you say, you can talk to them for 5 minutes, you're like, this is a worthiness issue. But you've got to meet them where they are, go down the journey. And as you get to know each other better, you could say, you know what? Underlying all these different things is a worthiness issue. Would you like to work on that?
So,
but it's medium that's what I found. If I come on too strong and go like, hey, these are the things, would you like to work on that? They're like,
not ready. See ya.
Yeah.
So if we've got a listener who's going, okay, I'm quite accomplished. It seems like the kids are doing well. I'm miserable. What would you have them begin to self-diagnose?
That it was worthiness or something like that.
Or it could be anything. They're like, the kids are doing okay. Spouse is sober, family's okay, work is bringing in money, we're all right. All these things are okay. I don't feel good. And it's not a health issue. It's just,
just an overall.
Yeah, I don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. I don't feel like pursuing this. I've made this business. Could I just leave now? That type of feeling.
That's when I would look at something like the video, because you start to see which parts of these things can I make adjustments with. I do tend to work with business owners who are ready to throw it all away, who would rather like hide in the bed and then wanting to get out and face whatever is going on out there. But most of the times, because they haven't seen the return, they're working a lot, haven't seen the return. You're talking about someone who has worked a lot, is seeing the return they want to see. And so it's like, I'm done. Then to me, that's a little different. Mm-hmm. So if you could play the process with me for a minute, I'm going to kind of go through something I thought might come up, but it did.
All right.
I would hazard to say that person isn't in what I call their flow zone. Mm-hmm. The business is something that they're good at, and they feel like they have a duty to keep doing it. And so it might not be the right place for them. That might not be their purpose work, their mission. It's just literally something they've got.
Hi, Sober on Purpose family. Please be sure and subscribe. We have a ton more videos. We have courses coming up. We have a newsletter that comes out weekly. Plus there is a podcast as well. And for those who are brave enough to really decide they want to move into the future, they want to move into their future self and leave behind the hurts, habits, and hangups that they have struggled with over the last year, I work with extraordinary women who are ready to step in, open their hearts, and find the true self that they can share with their family, their community, and the world. Because it's only when one person changes that the whole world changes. Are you ready to jump into that kind of adventure? Click the links in the show notes and let me know. Let's talk and see if we're the right fit. Again, remember to subscribe. Videos, courses, podcasts.